This is Zach, the Souls Guy, and I'm back with another episode of the reading series. So, yeah, I know it's been quite a bit since I've done the reading series here of the book People's History of American Empire. Like I said, I know it's been a minute because, just been a lot busier with other stuff and busy like with work and stuff, and only had time to do a couple videos here and there, and had time to do streams and whatnot. But that's really about it. So now that it's officially my day off now, I actually got time to do some reading and whatnot, and especially because it already gets 2:10 in the morning, and I can stay up as late as I want and sleep as late as I want and all that. So anyway, I'm into chapter 6 now, Children of the Empire. Freedom now in Vietnam. Get out of Saigon and into Selma. War on poverty, not on people. Less a socialist, that's exactly what I always say. Social progress is ignored when the guns of war become a national obsession. The bombs in Vietnam explode at home. Oh, they do. And they explode in the face. Oh, they do. And they explode in the face of public opinion as well. Because public opinion really started to go against this, and rightfully so. So we're on the one of the Quiet War. Through the 1950s and 1960s, an aggressive foreign policy had the U.S. on a permanent war economy. Unemployment was kept relatively low, but the distribution of wealth was still unequal. Nonetheless, all seemed secure until rebellions against racism, poverty, and war tarred the whitewashed image of American democracy. The corroded foundation of American empire was exposed. The quiet years in the South, 1955 to 1960, saw many courageous acts of defiance against segregation, often obscure and unrecorded. These included 16 sit-ins. In 1956, I was hired by Spell College, a college for women in Atlanta, Georgia. I taught history to the carefully protected daughters of the South. They were expected to dress, walk, and pour tea in a certain way. The Spell man, women shared facilities, and curricula with their male counterparts at neighboring Morehouse College of Atlanta University. There was an unspoken agreement between the black colleges and the white power structure. We white folks will let you folk, I'm not going to say that word, you folk educated your students, but you will not interfere with our way of life. The pact was symbolized by a 12-foot stone wall around Spellman. One day, these students would leap over that wall, but they started with quiet actions. Sometime in 1959, I suggested to students that it might be interesting to undertake some real project involving social change. The discussion became very lively. Some said, "Why don't we try to do something about the segregation of the public libraries? Let's do it." African Americans were allowed inside the central library, but only to read books in the basement. So 2 years later, sit ins swept in the South. The Spelman students launched an attack on the library's policy. "I'd like to check a copy of the Declaration of Independence, please." I can't do that. "I'd like to check a copy of the Declaration of Independence, but please, I'd like a copy, please." They kept up the pressure. "I'd like a copy of Paine's Common Sense, please." "We'll send it to our branch." The library board panicked and consulted the police chief. Library group calls Jenkins on segregation. "We're getting to them, Dr. Zen. It's time to file our lawsuit, Dr. Jackson. Would you be our main plaintiff?" "I'd be honored." Dr. Irene Jackson was well known as the sister of the Matilda Dobbs, one of the greatest coloratura sopranos in opera. "I'm sorry, Dr. Jackson, but I can't give you a library card, and I can't let you borrow the books." "Well, I'm sorry, but now I'll have to sue the library." While the library board weighed in the threat of bad publicity, some library staff showed their feelings. "Hey, Dr. Jackson," throws an egg at her. In the middle of the campaign, a call while I was sitting in the office of Whitney Young, then a dean at the Atlanta University. He was working with us. Hello? Good news, Howard. The library board has voted to end racial segregation in the Atlanta library system. Things at Spelman were beginning to change. A statement from student leaders called an appeal for human rights appeared as a full page in the Atlanta Constitution. It was created a sensation. 5 days later, hundreds of students staged in a sit-in at 10 cafeteria in downtown Atlanta. 77 students were arrested, 14 from Spelman. When the Spelman girls emerged from jail, they were in no mood to accept what they had accepted before. They would no longer tolerate Spelman's antiquated restrictions and the finishing school atmosphere. Much to the chagrin of the college's new black president, Albert Menley. In the spring of 1963, the students rebelled against Spelman's tight control over their lives, calling it uh, benevolent uh, despotism. Despotism, because he's basically being a despot. When students begin to defy established authorities, it often appeared to the administrators that someone must be behind this. The implications being that young people are incapable of thinking or acting on their own. Dr. Manley decided that I was that someone in June of 1963. He fired me. Being fired has some of the advantages of dying without its supreme disadvantage. People say extra nice things about you, and you get to hear them. Civil rights, shaken to the bone. For the first time in our history, a major social movement shaking the nation to its bones was led by youngsters. February 1st, 1960, Greensboro, North Carolina. I like a cup of coffee, please. We don't serve. Well, let's just say we don't serve you. Later, are you still looking here? Look, I told you we don't serve you. Now get. Maybe we'll see you again tomorrow. For the next 2 weeks, college students, including a few white kids, sat in all day at Woolworth's lunch counter. And this this lady behind the counter, her racist bones were just shaking. I think we're all starting to stir things up. The sit-in spread all over the South. Within the year, 50,000 people had marched in hundreds of cities, and thousands spent time in jail. My name's Andrew. What school do you go to? My name's Ruby. I go to Spelman. Then they sang a song. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Someday deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome one day. Angry white mobs confronted the Freedom Riders on the road to Birmingham, Alabama. These people are beaten and bloody. Why aren't you calling for help? Sorry, every ambulance in town just broke down. Yeah, that was a complete lie. In Jackson, Mississippi, 27 people were arrested for trying to integrate the bus terminal's white waiting room. They refused to post bail and spend 2 months in prison. To pass the time, the Spelman women sang freedom songs and practiced their ballet steps rather. I'm surprised they were even able to get away with this in prison, even just doing those things. In southern jails, discrimination and racism against poor blacks radicalized educated middle class activists from Atlanta and New York. The police beat you, get used to it. That's the way it is down here. Most of the credit for Freedom Riders should go to the Congress of Racial Equality Corps, but by August 1961, the sit-ins and freedom rides that had succeeded in the Upper South ground to a bloody halt in the Deep South. A long history of murder and intimidation kept blacks down between 1890 and 1920. White mobs lynched 4,000 blacks. Mississippi was a feudal land barony controlled by a few wealthy and powerful whites. They paid petty officials to run roughshod over blacks with guns and clubs. Civil rights activists shifted tactics again, this time focusing on voters registration. New York schoolteacher Bob Moses up, set up shop at McComb in Amite, Friendship County, Mississippi. In September 1961, Moses accompanied black farmer and NAACP member Herbert Lee to ensure that Lee could register to vote. Goons brutally attacked Moses on the courtroom steps. Later, Lee was found dead with shots through his left temple. And the newspaper lied about the whole thing. 3 days later, 200 people held the protest demonstration. Our people are being murdered for trying to vote. We must demand equal rights, freedom. Over 100 of the protesters were teenagers who had walked out of school. Equal rights now, justice, freedom now, justice for Herbert Lee. Several of the kids were arrested and later tried, fined, and sentenced to adult jail. Marching in the group was a youngster named John Dillinger Shaw, yelling also freedom and justice. 4 years later, Shaw was drafted into the 503rd Infantry Regiment 173rd Airborne, the first major U.S. Army ground combat unit deployed in Vietnam. Shortly after he arrived, he was killed. To protest Shaw's death, the McComb chapter of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party passed out leaflets on Main Street. Yeah, remember when the Democrats were actually. Remember that? Yeah, remember those days? Yeah, right? Yeah, remember those days when they. Remember when they were doing this, sending out letters like, no Mississippi, well, that term, should be fighting in Vietnam for the white man's freedom until all the people are free in Mississippi. Yeah, remember, yeah, the Democrats were the ones that started slavery, basically. They were the ones that started slavery that predates this whole thing. It had been more than 60 years since Bishop Henry M. Turner of the AME Church wrote, the person has no. See, when I use the air quotes, I'm just basically blanking out the word and just saying something else because some words in this book, those terms, some of those terms they used back in the day, I ain't saying here on YouTube for obvious reasons. Even though it's in the context of a book, but you never know with fucking YouTube. You never know. They could interpret this as hate speech and take this down, of course, because they're a bunch of fucking morons. But anyway, it had been more years since Bishop. Oh yeah, had no flag to defend it. W.E.B. Du Bois warned against the recent course of the U.S. towards weaker and darker people in Asia. Oh yeah, and so that began. And on that, the bombs in Vietnam. And this is where we get into what was going on in Vietnam. Because we all know exactly how that war went. We all know that that war really went well. Oh, it really did not. And since it's getting pretty late, I'm getting pretty tired. I'm going to leave off here. I'm still in this. Wait, am I still in this chapter here? I'm gonna check here. Based on here, yeah, I'm on page 160. So, yeah, this would be a good place to start. Or this would be a good place to hold off for now. But getting into a lot of interesting stuff here with this book. This is a great book, and I'm glad I got to read it again because you know what? I've been so busy with work, and then on my days off, and with the exception of me streaming on my days off, I'm just so fucking tired and lazy, and I'm just sitting in front of my computer or the TV and the Roku, and I'm just like sitting there and just lazing around, and I'm just so lazy. I didn't even feel like picking up a book, which is crazy because yeah, work is just been really fucking busy lately, and I'm just adjusting to my new schedule still. So, but I do love reading, especially this type of book. I'll be getting back more into this soon, and this concludes another video, long overdue video. This. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Hope you all enjoyed this reading series. Hope you all are continuing to enjoy this reading series. Very special thanks to my dear friend Nicholas, who is Turles on YouTube. Is my homie and my comrade that recommended this book to me. So thank you to him as always. Thank you to everybody who watches. And stay tuned for my stream later tonight at 7 p.m. Look out for it. More stuff on the way. This is Zach, the Celtics guy, as always, saying thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on my stream tonight, including my next video, which will be coming out soon. Till next time, and until my stream tonight, see you all tonight, and see you all in the next one. Stay safe, stay well, stay classy, and as always, keep fighting and keep on rocking. Till next time, take care of yourselves and all of each other. Good night, peace out, and so on.